The quickest way to get your new product idea manufactured is to look around and see if anybody is making a similar product. And if they are, talking to them and seeing if they would be able to modify it to your specifications and sell it to you. My guest on the show today did just that. Todd Goode is the president of LightYourReptiles.com, and he creates high quality lighting products for the reptile world. He's going to come on and share with you how he did it, so you are able to apply these techniques and get your product made. Please join me in welcoming Todd Goode to the Reptile Entrepreneur Show. With me here today is Todd Goode. He's the president of Light Your Reptiles, which is a company that provides lighting solutions for reptiles and birds. Todd has got a lot of experience in dealing with overseas manufacturers, and he's had to do that to get his lighting products. And so today he's going to help us see what it would take to go overseas, or at least evaluate overseas manufacturing to see if we have to do it. And if we do, how do we go about making contacts and going through the process? Todd, thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome, Bill. It's good to see you. We haven't communicated really in a little while, so it's really nice to hear from you.
Yeah, it's very good to see you again. Let's go ahead and jump in. The context of this is we've got a budding entrepreneur who's got a product idea, and he's evaluating whether they should go domestic, go overseas. And so let's just start off. How do you make the decision whether you can go domestic or overseas?
Well, it's going to depend a lot on your product, and you'd want to see probably, is your product something that can be manufactured here in the United States? Is it something that you can manufacture? Manufacturing different products, sometimes it's probably the easiest to just do it in-house or in your area, something where you can have quality control, you can oversee what's being done. Unfortunately, as we know and we touched on, the U.S. has lost some manufacturing capabilities, especially with what I'm dealing with was lighting and LED lighting and everything. Over the past couple of decades, the ability to have lighting products made in the USA is slim to none, sadly. Mm-hmm. So, with that said, you basically, if you're doing something you have like that or something technical, you're going to have to outsource it to China or Vietnam is hot right now, I guess. Some other countries that do have are ramping up their manufacturing, and they have the capability in the factories to do it. My background, of course, was that I started Light Your Reptiles basically 11 years ago because... Well, I'll back up even a little more, Bill, for you. I've been in the pet business.
How did you start?
I'll go back for you, way back, Bill. I've been in the pet business since 1976. I first started working in, just a brick and mortar pet stores in 1976. Prior to that, I'd had, lizards. My first, outside of anoles, my first big reptile was a spiny-tailed iguana. And I also did saltwater fish and things. So... And then, of course, getting into the 80s, I owned a brick-and-mortar pet store and did some other things. So I have a background in that, and it's been very interesting how, the whole hobby and things have evolved and the awareness of it and the explosion through the internet. Anyway, I got out of the pet business for quite a while, and then I decided to get back in with Light Your Reptiles approximately 11 years ago. I was getting back into doing reptiles, dart frogs, and things. And I was just surprised that a lot of the lighting, a lot of the things like that were still back in the 70s, with the disco balls. So I was looking at bringing in products that would help with doing the vivariums, doing the terrariums, and lighting the reptiles more naturally, and giving them better light than just a screw-in light bulb. Which led me to developing the Jungle Dawn LED, which was something that really kind of kicked me off and started me out. Basically, what I did was, get me back on track here, Bill. What was we were talking about?
No, go
I
ahead
get
and
off
continue.
track here, so you have to.
We're getting to the good stuff here. You decided you wanted to do the Jungle Dawn
Yes.
LED. You're trying. You're saying what you wanted didn't exist. and
Okay, so I
now
had this
you have the
picture in my
challenge.
mind. Yeah.
How do you make something that doesn't exist?
Well, technically, I mean, LED lights existed and screw-in LED lights existed. That was not a difficulty. But the way that the diodes were and the propensity to try to make them cheap and use the cheapest diodes with the poorest spectrum possible and things like that were a problem. So I started out by trying different sort of LED lights and existing items that I was buying off Alibaba and stuff from China, just to basically see what could be had and done with them. You have to have the materials in your hand, I believe. If you're going to create something or do something, you need to be physically touching it and looking at it and testing it. It's nice to draw things on paper and draw out your ideas, but just like anything, you need that working model done. And so I ordered different LED products, and again, one thing I found is that the spectrum of the lighting was woefully lacking, so that it would just give that sort of like a funeral home pallor to the terrariums and stuff. And, the animals didn't look that great under it, and the plants didn't look that great under it. So starting with the examples of screw-in LEDs that I had, I did experimentation with different diodes. And I wish I probably have thrown out piles of samples and things. And I wish I had them now. This was like 10 years ago. Because I even tried doing like LEDs, putting like a rainbow of diodes across them to like enhance different colors of the spectrum. And they were wicked hard to make. And they cost a fortune. But anyway, I settled down and we found mixing certain diodes in Kelvin color temperatures gave a really good light. And that's sort of where the screw-in Jungle Dawn diode originated. And, I have to say, thousands upon thousands of people now are using them through our friends at Arcadia in Europe and Arcadia and Canada and the U.S. It's doing really well, and hopefully my LED lights have saved a lot of plants in terrariums and grown them out really nice, and provided the reptiles with enough light so that they, didn't want to ruminate or become depressed from lack of sunlight, because that's a true thing. The lack of light can really depress reptiles, as we know.
So let's go back. We jumped a couple of steps here.
Okay, well, that's why, Bill, you have to.
Yeah.
You drive the car. I'll just be the babbling passenger. You go ahead.
So you got a bunch of sample products off of Alibaba, and somehow you made contact.
And eBay. Don't forget eBay. Gotta remember eBay.
Okay, all right, eBay. All of our we need all of our resources here.
Yeah.
So you have all this product, and you got an idea. You made some prototypes. How did you make first contact with somebody overseas? Well,
I found the product that I liked for the screw-in LED, and I contacted the company and I told them the modifications that we wanted to do to it, using a higher quality diode, better spectrum light, and see if they could make them. And basically, you got to pay to play. So I had to buy like $1,000 worth of LED. If I remember correctly, it's probably like $800 or something, and have it shipped over from China. So I had to buy their minimum quantity at the time, and I had them made up. And
well, how willing were they to just take the phone call from somebody and saying, "Hey, I want something different"?
Technically, it's hard to call China because sometimes there's a language barrier. Although now I do have a translator that helps me out. But what we did was, basically, I did most of the conversations were through email, and one thing that a little tip I can give people when communicating with people in other countries, doesn't matter, China or any places, I always type it out in English, but then I go to Google Translate and I translate it to their language. Now, we all know Google Translate's kind of not the greatest, but I believe in working with other countries, it's important to show an effort to not, just speak on one language, but also try to communicate in their language too. So I said, here I'm translating this to Google Translate. It may be faulty, but hopefully it'll help us communicate better. Anything you can do to communicate better with anybody that speaks any language is going to be a benefit to you, and also build trust, which we can get into too. But yeah, So I started out and I bought prototypes and saw what a couple different companies could do. So I had to basically just pony up some cash, place some orders, and tell them what I wanted and see what they sent me. And you can burn through some money that way because, it's not to say any country or anybody you do business with, you have to find people you can trust. And some people are trustworthy, some people aren't. Doesn't matter the business or country you're dealing with. So I do remember getting one. It was quite big too. It's I had somebody do a run of $1,000 worth or $800 or $1,000 worth of stuff. Because that seemed to be like the minimum quantity at the time.
Okay.
And they shipped them, and the LEDs, they didn't put drivers in them, so they didn't light. So, you'd screw in it, there's nothing. So I kept those for quite a while, just as a memento, a learning curve. Did I get my money back? Hell no.
How do you deal with something like that?
You can complain and it depends on the nature of who you're dealing with and stuff. The biggest thing is sometimes you have to be prepared. If you're going to play, you're going to have to pay sometimes.
Okay.
But that's part of the development cost. But I was very lucky to find somebody 10 years ago or a group of people that I really could work with. And on the flip side, they had some English too, so we could also talk and communicate that way. Plus, we could do emails and things. So as far as going to the manufacturing in China, and it worked out, and I'm very thankful in that. As a matter of fact, I'm friends with those people now, and we still communicate like just chit chat, friendly, on an ongoing basis. And if I need something translated or something, I have access to translators. And
so, how did that design process work? Just what did you give them? Did you give them drawings? Was this verbal? How do you get a prototype in your hands?
Drawings are good, yes. You have to do some drawings. The basics were we could compile most of the parts for the Jungle Dawn LEDs out of what was available. I'm going to shift gears just a tiny bit because it depends on what the people are trying to make. The price, if you can take something existing and tweak it, or make simple improvements to it, or make it more functionable for, the reptile market or something, that's good. And that's probably the less involved and expensive road to go down. It's easier to take an existing product like a light fixture or something and say, okay, this is the body of the fixture and everything, but could we, put double cords in it or put a timer in it or something? Taking something like that and then improving it and then saying, put better drivers in them or something and come up with a better product. The tougher thing to do, Bill, or anybody listening, is if you want to start something from scratch, it's going to be molded out of plastic. You're going to have to look at, well, first of all, the people that are going to want to work with you want to make sure you probably have money. Mm-hmm. Because they're going to have, if you're making something out of plastic and you're designing your molds and everything from scratch, those molds have to be carved and built from scratch, whether you have them done in the U.S. or whether you have them done in China. I think the cost to make a mold is $4,000 to $5,000 for a little plastic part. So you think of a little part.
Yeah.
So if you think of an object that's going to take multiple plastic parts to create, a lighting fixture or a cage or, a door mechanism for a reptile cage, anything. And if they have to make the molds to shoot the plastic into, Bill, that's where you start racking up a lot of money. So again, it's better if you can take something existing and improve on it. That way you have at least the template to start on. It's also, you also know what what parts they have access to. It's not like, so you can, the housing and things like that. But yeah, so I started out with the Jungle Dawns. That's what we did. We improved the drivers in them, and we improved the quality of the diodes, and did something to make the diodes have a broader spectrum so that it more simulated sunlight. So that's how that one started. The other real thing that I had done in China, which I'm not doing anymore, I'm coming back to it, is fluorescent lighting. I was working with somebody in China on fluorescent lighting, and there again, they were making lights for aquariums and things. And basically the lights needed to be tweaked so that they would work for reptiles just slightly. So I had been working with them, and I don't know how far we want to go in the story. So, and they were making some
Let's
fairly
go into
good
the story.
Huh? Say what?
Yeah,
Bill?
let's go into the story.
Oh, Bill.
We
Yeah.
we want to hear
So anyway,
the ugly.
the ugly. Well, so anyway, it wasn't ugly at first. It just uglied a little bit when they took my money and didn't ship my lights. So basically, they were making lights for me. Many people probably have those Tropic Blaze fixtures, the early ones with the internal ballast. So a guy named Feng, I won't say his last name, was making them for me in China. I had talked to him through a translator over Skype or WeChat or something. And I placed an order with him. I was familiar, I had got samples, I was familiar with what the light was going to be like. And we were cool. And so I placed a first order, a small order of like, can you do up like $10,000 worth of lights for me? And he obliged. Side note, usually you have to send them with any manufacturing, whether it be in the U.S., China, any country, you're going to need to probably send them some money first. Like a 50% deposit is common if they've never dealt with you. So I sent him, X thousands of dollars, and he made the lights. We shipped them over. That was also back 9 years ago when the shipping was not exorbitant and there wasn't the crazy 25% tariff on importing stuff, electrical. So that went great. And then I expanded what I bought from him over a couple of years, and the lights were pretty good. They were okay. They did well. Customers liked them, and they were easy to work with. And then I had placed this huge order, sent him my 50%. And it usually took him, or his organization, probably 2 months to make them. So you have a lead time too. That's another thing. Where's the camera? Lead time. You got to be aware there's sometimes a lead time. And so 2 months go by. I'd sent him thousands. Didn't hear from him. Emailed him. He said, "Oh, we're working on it." Okay, backed up. Okay. Another month or two went by. Yeah, working on it. Yeah. Well, it turns out I think he ended up having some troubles and having to go to jail for a while. And so I had sent all this money over there, and nothing was being made. And so basically that was a hard lesson, because I was really pretty cool with him. We were trusted him and stuff. But again, extraneous things went on in his life, and you're dealing with people, And a lot of these companies that make things like this, they're a lot smaller than you think, Bill. They're not like huge conglomerate companies. They're just a couple people. They're mom and pop factories. They think a lot differently over there. It's a lot less rulesy and regulations, in other countries. And so people just start up a factory in their garage and make stuff, which is great, But, if they have problems and get picked up and end up in jail and stuff, that's not getting your fluorescent lights made, So
did you ever get those made, or is it just a wash?
No. It was not a wash. I did. I don't know how far I want to go into this, but
as far as would be useful for somebody who doesn't know the lay of the land, but we don't have to go into too much of personal details. The trusted people I do business with in China contacted him and took a drive to go see him. And that's how they found out that he was having all these problems and stuff. So again, my peeps over there that have been really good to me, were thankfully they checked out with Feng and found it was not going to happen. And in a long roundabout way, I finally 2 years later got the thousands of dollars back. It was 2 years. Yeah. That's pretty good. I never got my $7,500 back out of Madagascar, so you're doing better than me.
Oh
on
my
that
goodness! So you've really been it.
One. Oh boy,
You know the deal.
I know the detail.
So, yep. Sometimes things just go awry, but
Oh, sorry. There's a
somebody's
civil war. You've lost your money. What?
that's right. That's right. That's a step down from an act of God, you know.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Was that recent or a while ago?
That was in the early 2000s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, back when all of a sudden they had a little civil war in Madagascar, and that was right in the middle of one of my shipments. And well, I guess I guess that's an excuse.
Yep.
And then the guy went and died before he would repay me.
Say what now?
And the guy went up and died before he could repay me.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Well, that's too bad.
It's one of those. Oh, who are you? Yeah, I'm the guy that you owe money to. I've never heard of you. Oh, really? Well, look at all these emails I've got. Yeah, I love how that works.
Yeah. In international dealing, you know, it's, you know, your level of recourse is not what you think it is.
Listen, my life
It's
is
not
worth
what you
about
think it is.
$50 if I set foot on the soil. So yeah, you just let it go.
Yeah,
But-
sometimes you do. And I think that, you know, people have to be, if you're looking at being an entrepreneur or developing products, obviously you have to have, you know, business savvy. But I don't want to say, there's a bit of being a gambler too, really. You know, there's a bit of being a gambler there. You know, because sometimes you're going to stick, you know, $10 bills in that slot machine, you know, and pull the handle, and it's just going to come up lemons. So, but when it comes up, yeah.
How often would you say that you lose money just trying to find somebody you can trust?
I think I've been lucky. I probably haven't lost that much. And I've recouped some of it. So I would say I've been lucky. Basically, you know, people are people all over the world, Bill. And there's good people doing business, and there's people that want to be good people doing business, but circumstances, you know, like the war or, you know, somebody, you know, getting their drunk driving and thrown in jail in China or something can throw a wrench on things. So, yeah, you just have to roll with it. But somebody that you can keep, the longer you build a relationship with somebody and the longer you work with them, as you know, the better off you are. So starting out, it is pretty little hairy there. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've also expanded your business. You do some distribution. And,
yes.
So how do you integrate your own designs with distribution?
Well, like I say, a lot of my stuff, you know, is pretty basic. You know, I'm actually right now working on a new fluorescent light fixture. What can I say? I would like for it to be a hybrid light fixture and have LED in it, and also take, you know, the high quality Arcadia bulbs for the UV. It's been ongoing for like quite a while, so I don't know where it's going right now. I've been getting samples every couple of months of different fixtures, and, you know, seeing if the housing is the right depth and everything to drop drivers and stuff in, and LEDs and things too. So your question was about getting me back on track.
Yeah, you're doing a hybrid model here of
we're doing a model. We're not sure what it's going to come out as.
So you're doing.
It's right over there, as a matter of fact, but I'm not going to show you.
Okay,
it's a secret until it's done.
So you've done this hybrid business model of designing your own products, but then you've gotten a relationship with Arcadia, where you're distributing their products, and
yes,
and their what is their relationship with the Jungle Dawn? How does that all work?
They distribute Jungle Dawn in Europe, United States. I import it in the United States too. I have to say the LED bars, we're going to give a shout out. John Courtney Smith worked on the development of the Jungle Dawn LED bars. with one of the people I had worked with in China, and built upon, the framework of the diodes and things, using the quality diodes and things, and it's come out fantastic. I mean, you've seen them.
Oh yeah, I've used them.
Yes.
They have brightened up my vivariums, and I've gotten some great response from the plants.
Yeah. The plants grow great. The animals look great. The spectrum is great off them. So I've worked with Arcadia. Well, at the time, 10 years ago, nobody was selling Arcadia in the United States. Now, Arcadia, people don't know this, but Arcadia had been sold in the United States way back in the 80s and things, and it had never really got a foothold. I had actually seen and was familiar with their products, but for some reason or another, their foothold never took off in the United States. So, when I started the business, while I was working on the Jungle Dawn LEDs, I contacted them to see if they wanted to send to somebody in the United States and try to sell it in the United States. And so the communication took a little while, and then we sort of, everything went in sync, and I set up the website, and then I imported the first, shipment into the United States of God knows how many years of Arcadia light bulbs. That was, like I say, around 2010, 2011. Now they're selling fantastically. Yeah.
Yeah,
because they're good. They're
really
good.
enjoyed them.
They're good. What can you say? But I was familiar with the product from being in the pet business so long, and I was familiar with the Arcadia company because they've been around since, I think, the late 60s. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but they've been around since the late 60s. They had more of an aquarium focus. From what I remember back in the 80s, they seemed to have more of an aquarium focus for aquarium products. But they started from doing reptile products, and that's kind of how we got the roll on here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do a checklist.
Okay.
We've got an idea. We want to try it out. So, first step is find like products, say either in the United States, Europe, wherever you happen to be, and get samples from companies wherever they are. Correct?
Right. If it's something you can make from scratch, hey, make it from scratch. If it's something you're going to do from scratch, do it. If it's something if it's a product that needs to be tweaked or made better, you can do that. But the most important thing I think, is to have the product, use it on your own animals. You develop the product, you use it on your own animals, and you see how it works and the results you get. Because you have to be real about it.
How much testing? Obviously, you need to do as much testing as you would any product when you get this in.
Yeah. No, I used the Jungle Dawn lights I had a bunch of dart frog setups at the time. I was breeding Variabilis and some other dart frogs, and also I had some Alisoni anoles and some other something or other. But so I set the tanks up, and I used the prototype Jungle Dawns over the setups, along in conjunction with some Arcadia bulbs for the UV lighting, and the results were fantastic. The Alisoni anoles were just like dropping eggs left and right. I don't know if you're familiar or not, but on those guys, people would tell me, well, the males don't always keep their heads blue, unless they're breeding or something. And I said, oh no, mine will be always blue because they're always jacked up between the lighting and the proper diet and things. Anyway, I digress a little bit, but basically what I was doing was working. And so then you have to take what you've got or developed that's working, and then expand on that to make a product that you can share with other people, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So we've got an idea, we've got some prototypes, and then we try to find some contacts wherever they are, and we find a way to actually email them and get in contact. Just a question. How willing were companies to take your call or take your email or respond to you about making something tweaks to their product?
They're pretty willing. Yeah. Or if it's a product that's totally different, but you should look for people that make something very similar, and contact them and see if their factory can do what you can. So you can either tweak or, like I say, if you're doing something from scratch, basically, I'm getting jumbled here, but just go for something similar. Contact the people that are doing it, that have expertise in the manufacture of it, and they'll usually be pretty responsive. Yeah.
Okay.
But you can't waste their time, though. You have to be serious about it. And they can tell. I mean, anybody you're working with in business can tell if you're serious or not.
Okay. And serious generally means that you've got money in the bank and you're willing to pony up for prototyping costs?
Right. Be it small. I mean, you can start small. It doesn't have to be, thousands of dollars. It just can be like a little amount of money, I mean, the first batch of LEDs I bought was probably $800, But so it doesn't have to be a lot, but it does have to, you have to be serious about it,
Okay.
Yeah.
And say in the context of lighting, what is serious? What kind of quantities are we talking about? What kind of...
Well, I mean, as if I was looking for somebody who wants to buy, products from me, even wholesale or something, I just check and see if they are set up as a business online. I check and see if they have a website to sell the product. I mean, that's a start, It's kind of like, which do you do first? But I think it's important to have establish yourself as a business, at least in a small capacity.
Okay, something that they can check and say, yes, this
something they can check and say,
business.
This person's at least serious about it. They've set themselves up as a business.
They can actually do something with the product.
Right.
If we make it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And so you make contact. You establish that you're someone who's actually serious, not going to waste their time.
Yeah.
And then you communicate product.
You communicate product and then say, could you make me a prototype? Could you make me a small order of them? How much?
Okay.
And so you do have to, this is where some negotiation comes in, because obviously, especially if you're dealing with somebody in anything in business, right through the line, you don't want to commit to, a fortune to spending to somebody you've never done business with. We know that, Bill.
Yeah.
So I would recommend trying to get what you want made in samples of it for probably the least quantity and amount of money. Not because you want to be cheap, but you need to see what they can do, and the proof needs to be in the pudding. And you don't want to buy, the proof needs to be in the pudding, and you don't want to buy like $20,000 worth of pudding if it sucks.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here and say it has always bitten me in the butt when I've decided, what, I think this is perfect. This is going to be great. I'll go ahead and order twice as many because I want to. I know it's going to be great.
I know.
And when they
Yeah.
come in, it's there's something that went wrong that I never even considered would go wrong, or
Right.
it's just it's an off color or something very strange, and you want to.
So you're right. You're right. So the proof is, in the pudding again, and just get an order, because they got to make some money if they're dealing with you. So you got to buy something. So I would say in anything, whether it doesn't even matter, China, Vietnam, anybody that's making this, the Middle East, who knows, commit to buying the smallest amount you can after maybe you've seen your prototypes. So see your prototypes first and see what they can do. They got to make some money. You have to do business. So get yourself a small order of what they are making for you and hope it comes out good and you can sell it. And then you can take the money off what you sell, reinvest it in a larger order. That's probably the sequence that I would work with. You're smiling, so I think you probably agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, the number of times I've said, I'll take 5 prototypes instead of 1.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So,
I just had to clean out, and I did it, and it's too bad because it would have been perfect for something like this. I had to clean out the warehouse upstairs, and I had literally mounds of sample products and things that I had paid for, and different light fixtures, sample light fixtures, to see if they could be adjusted or tweaked for the reptile market or things like that. And I literally had a mound of it, and obviously anything that's any good I would donate to people or give away. And anything that was crap, I just had to chuck. But it was all money I paid for, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So, okay. So we've now got a prototype and we've
Right.
tested it thoroughly. Everybody test it.
And don't just test it yourself. Have somebody else test it that's objective, Bill.
Yeah.
You know, like when I finally finish these wonderful light fixtures I've been working on, I'll send one for you to test because you can tell me objectively, you know, if it's any good or not. You know,
Okay. Be
because
very
sometimes
happy
we
to do
all
that.
think our own stuff is wonderful, and it might not be as wonderful as it is.
Yeah. And so at that point, then it's once you've got a product, you know it's great, good to go. Is there anything that we should watch out for going into production?
Well, you can set up contracts and agreements with who's manufacturing them for you. And you can set up agreements for, you know, I'm trying to put this in layman words and stuff like, you know, what do they call it there, Bill? The minimum failure rate or something. So you set up, I'm going to buy 100 products from you. And in a contract or email, say the minimum failure rate I'll accept would be 3% or something. Okay. So if you're buying products from them, there's going to be some duds. Some of it may not even be their fault. Some of it could be rough handling and shipping or something. So if you get 100 XYZs and 3 or 4 of them are just duds, you know, that's not that it might not even be that they did a bad job. It might be this, that, you know, it got dropped on the floor on the way over and the wires came loose inside whatever you're making or something. So you can have contracts in place. I find, though, that internationally it's nice to have that laid out, and it's very important. And I have some things that didn't go very well that I got to, but ultimately, how are you going to sue somebody in China? How are you going to sue somebody in Vietnam?
Yeah.
So it circles right back to, you know, you can have all these agreements or a contract with your manufacturer or with a person, and it's good to do that to spell out everything. But don't let it be a false sense of security, because ultimately, how are you going to enforce it? What are you going to do?
Yeah, and what do you do, or what have you experienced as far as the decreasing of quality as you get into production and your second production run, as your company decides, hey, they're going to cut a couple of pennies off of this in this area by using a cheaper part? I mean, you find out on the when you get 1,000 of these things.
That's a no-no, and that's a no-no. And I always specify that we have to use top shelf parts in these and stuff. There's it's a deal breaker. Everything has to be top quality.
But
and
have
if
you
have
ever
to change
seen the?
I know it happens. I have been lucky. I have not had that problem. I have, you know, bless me. But probably my next shipment. But no, seriously. The people I work with have done an excellent job. So, but I know people who have that problem. Yeah, they'll start slacking on. You know, things can slack as they make it and get a little more futzy and loosey goose, and that's where, you know, I think that the minimum, I'm not sure what term we want to use, but the minimum failure rate or the minimum you know, defect rate would come in and things like that. So if they go below a minimum defect rate, such and such. Also, you have, you know, if somebody's making stuff for you, you need to crack that open and look at it. You know, you there's nothing that says you can't crack open a fixture or a product or something. Look at it, set it aside. The next time the next shipment comes in, you crack that open. You can see all the components, and if they have shifted components or anything, you're able to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do your own quality control.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
And it's actually, I've had more of those experiences in my other profession, which is consumer electronics, where
that's why, yeah.
I would see the degrading of a component here or there, where the OEM decided they were going to save a little bit of money on a component, and that had serious consequences. Since I do all my for the chameleon caging, I do the manufacturing here in the United States.
Right.
We have a lot more hands-on quality control, and so we've had companies every now and then send us a batch of something that they've gone cheap on, and then we just have to either send them back or throw them away, and find another source. So,
well, you have if you're finding the right people in business. How do I want to say this? If you're serious about doing business and serious about what you're doing and your success, and you find like-minded people that are not just doing it as a fluke, but as an ongoing business. I mean, if you're a customer of a business, the business should want to keep you as a customer because that's just going to, especially long-term, just add to their bottom line. And, if you're the business, you want to keep the people happy and shopping or getting products made by you. So if they are of the correct mindset, if whoever you're doing business with has the correct mindset, they're not going to want to cheap out or disappoint you, But there's different factors on the fly-by-nightiness of anybody you deal with in business,
Okay. Well, what is the atmosphere like today? Say somebody wants to start today and go create another product. What's it like? Is it easy to do? Is it harder politically, just business wise, any sort of climate wise? What's it like nowadays?
I would say the climate, because I deal with the same people, and so we have a good relationship. The climate wise that way for me has been very stable. What hasn't been is like the increased shipping costs have been astronomical for products bringing.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Amazing.
The increase. It's painful.
And also, actually paying for stuff has gotten interesting because you used to be able to just wire people money, pay them with PayPal. Now there's an extra layers of. It could be good, for security because maybe too many people did get ripped off, but there's always an extra layer of security or, providing more documentation for it. Because I've looked at doing something on Amazon now, and I'm just shocked at how much. That's another story, but they're just.
Amazon is
it's something else.
Definitely another story.
It's definitely part 2. But, yeah.
Okay. I think that pretty much covers experiences, and just want to encourage anybody out there, if you have a product idea, then take a look at manufacturing domestically, overseas, and there's all sorts of risks, but that's part of being an entrepreneur. That just comes with the territory.
It is, and as you know, Bill, you always have to be prepared for surprises.
Yes, and you
usually,
will get
unfortunately,
a lot of surprises.
The surprises usually require a lot of cash.
Yes,
or cash
they do
to fix. That's right. And so hopefully you get a hit product that you can keep selling, and over time recoup all your R&D costs, your research and development costs, because ultimately, you're going to have that, and you're set up to manufacture.
All right. Well, Todd, I want to thank you very much for coming on the Reptile Entrepreneur Show.
Yeah.
And we will see you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're coming up with next as far as lighting.
Well, it's a little slow going here, so it could be a couple months, could be who knows.
I'll be patient.
You kind of have to roll with it. You have to kind of roll with it to, sell no wine before it's time. You got to make sure the stuff is right, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.